everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to the Man Alone solo role-playing YouTube channel. And today, we're going to talk about a solo mystery game. You've heard that right, a solo mystery game, which, boy, if you've been around these parts, you know that I have a little bit of a apprehension, shall we say, about anything that claims to be a solo mystery game, because most solo mystery games are only mystery flavored. They have the trappings of mystery, they have the tropes, but in the end, they're not really a mystery game. They're more like a scavenger hunt sort of game, which is okay. I mean, look, there's been a lot of good games that can be reduced down to scavenger hunts. I think the original Legend of Zelda, now that I think about it, you're just looking for the Triforce. I don't know. Is that just kind of a Triforce scavenger hunt? Seems a bit rude to think of Legend of Zelda that way. So, no judgies, but I've just really always wanted a mystery game that feels like a mystery game, okay? And so in order to figure out like what would feel like a mystery game to me, in order to see if this cuts the mustard, I've come up with a few different, shall we say, requirements for me, okay? And because I have a new label maker, they're going to be presented as labels. So let me get a blank sheet of paper that I could put all of these on. Oh, this is going to be fun. All right. So the first thing is I want to be able to generate a mystery. I want to be able to create a mystery without a solution, right? I want it to have the tools and the mechanics to say, a painting has been stolen, or somebody moved my hat. I then want to do detective work, actual detective work. I don't want to just do things that look like detective work. I want to gather clues. I want to talk to people. I want to break into old Mr. Kranicki's shampoo shop in the middle of the night and try to find out what's really been happening with the dandruff. And I want to overcome obstacles. There should be threats. There should be people hot on my case. There should be people telling me to mind my own business. Right? Overcome obstacles. And then the final part, which I think is the most difficult nut to crack, is finding a real solution, right? Figuring out a real solution to my mystery. A solution that it could be pre-genned, but it makes sense according to what my mystery is, right? It's not just like a token at the end that says, congratulations, you've solved the mystery. It's like, well, what was the mystery? What was the outcome? I want news. I want to find out what happened. So as we go through Caught in the Rain, maybe if I remember, which I rarely do, we can check each of these off to see if it accomplishes that. But first, I just want to say thank you to Ravens Ridge Emporium for sending me a copy, a no strings attached copy, might I add. There was no expectation that I did anything with it other than enjoyed it, and I have, most definitely. And Ravens Ridge Emporium, if you'll remember, they actually created one of my favorite games of 2024. At least one of my most played games of 2024. Top 3 faves, I'm going to say. Truly, I've had so much fun with this game. Simple concept, masterful execution. That's Cartograph Atlas Edition. And so I was quite excited when they contacted me and said, what do you think about a solo mystery game? I said, brother, I have so many thoughts, and I'm going to share those. So this is by Nicholas Robinia, who also on itch.io goes by Bardic Inquiry. It's a nice hardcover book. It's just under 100 pages, and the inside, very well made, glossy pages. Day 8 of their Kickstarter, which, yeah, I'd say it's doing pretty well for itself. Now, I don't mind sharing this at all. They're like on the cusp of, what would we say, like 10 times their original goal, which was extremely specific original goal. Let me see if I bring this up here. They, let's see. Yeah, so they wanted $2,787. I love that. They're at 21,000. In addition to the book, 8 days left to go. 557 backers. There is also you can back and get this card deck, which ooh la la, look at this. So you could use regular face cards to play, but this card deck that they made for it, not only does it have the playing card, it also is going to have an object in the middle. It's going to have some names. It's going to have a sort of like yes, no oracle results, some dice oracles, and then around the edges, check this out. There's going to be all these other like related inputs. Ooh, these are very nice solo cards. Madon. So yeah, so they're doing really well, but again, I don't mind backing a Kickstarter that is sort of fulfilling the original vision of Kickstarter, right? Which is like we're going to help individuals and smaller companies who would not be able to bring their vision to life if it weren't for crowdfunding. So, if during this review you feel that this is a game that speaks to you, and I hope some of you will get spaken to, check out the link below. And like I said, just over a week to support the Kickstarter. Get the book, get those cards. Those cards are nice. Okay, so what's this game about? So Caught in the Rain, one of the most outstanding things about this game is that, yes, it is going to feature hard-boiled detectives. It is going to have clues. It's going to have thievery. It's going to have people who you need to talk to for a second. It's going to start raining. There's, all the hallmarks of that noir genre. However, there's something more. In addition to the noir genre, and there's going to be tables for locations, objects, clues, keywords, obligations, threats, names. There's going to be, these tables are excellent, by the way. Whoever was the tablesmith, kudos. But it would have been enough to just have these noir tables, but they actually have ones for fantasy and for sci-fi and for gothic horror. All of those tables for all of those. So you can play this in any genre, which I think is absolutely awesome, because I didn't even think about like how much I would want that. I would be like, well, if I'm playing a detective game, it's going to be 1920s. It's going to be, hey kid, come here, I'll give you a sawbuck if you tell me what happened, right? And so, but to play out a fantasy or a sci-fi mystery, thinking about like in The Expanse, how that's undoubtedly a sci-fi show, but one of the coolest aspects, especially the first and second season, is this like detective investigation aspect. So that's really awesome. And I think if you're somebody that has sort of like wants that just as a tool, I think it is worth it in and of itself, just as a tool, having those different aspects of those different genres expressed in those tables. There is going to be an investigator sheet, which you are going to build out. Obviously, your investigator. For mine, first name always Jorma. For my characters, I wanted my character to be, he's a detective, and I want him to be Italian. So Jorma Investigatori, who's an insomniac and a man of few words. I just want to say that this is going to be a review. If you're looking for a playthrough, I want to recommend two channels: Hollow Pond Solo Saga and Lone Horizons. Lone Horizons does an incredible 2-hour playthrough of this, and Hollow Pond Solo Saga does two different playthroughs of this. The second one is like a like a Judge Dredd take on it. Both of them excellent solo players. Hollow Pond is very funny. I'm glad I found that channel. But yeah, so this is I think on the whole, this answers a lot of questions that I have in terms of what sort of game is this going to be get answered right when I looked at this sheet. So one of the first things I like is that we have these attributes: power, insight, method. Even though it's kind of abridged in terms of stats in a game, this was awesome because there is so many things just by adding 3 stats to this game. There are so many things that we can now do that to explore the space that we're in, right? Being able to do attribute checks. In addition, there's a keyword system, and I got to go on record. I'm loving keywords more and more lately. I'm loving keywords. The flexibility that keywords give. Keywords are something between like items and skills and talents and just sort of like things that are true. And they, especially in solo play, they allow for a flexibility that is more qualitative than quantitative. Rather than saying, oh, what's my number in this skill, or do I have this talent? You say, okay, I have this keyword. How can I apply it to this situation? And in this game, you can use the keyword to gain some advantage. You can re-roll, you can eliminate a clue, a threat, etc. And you also have a signature keyword, which you can, every time you rest, it sort of like re-ups. So for instance, Jorma's was deductive reasoning. And there also is fatigue and a clock and obligations, which answered these other questions for me, which is like, is this game going to be a detective game or is it going to be a guessing game? Because, and I didn't even really like capture this too much on here, but if we don't have stakes and we don't have urgency and we don't have other things going on in this detective's life, and I wish there are many other games that I think need to hear this. Well, games can't hear anything, but the people who made, well, I'm sure the people who made them hear enough. But anyways, like without stakes and urgency and other things going on in this detective's life, the game just becomes, like 20 questions. It's like 20,000 questions, right? It's like, I don't know like what's exciting about this. It's just like me. It's the difference between a detective solving a crime and just some dude sitting at home wondering, which if you want to play that, like, my uncle Grayson just sits at home and like wonders about conspiracies. So that's like a pretty cool RPG game, right? But like, if you want there to be something that is propelling it forward, we need these things. So excellent job capturing that. A nice experience system that opens the door for longer play. And then there's a mystery sheet. The mystery sheet has this danger level. It has clues that you can summon using the tables in the back. It has additional threats that can be people or can be just like, I think the example it used in the book is like a person with a gun or a landslide. And then there is also, like, as you investigate, you can gain fatigue, and the fatigue, as it like accrues, you lose the ability to use certain attributes. Okay. So in terms of generating a mystery, yeah, right away, that's going to get checked off because it has a very clever system for this, which is generating a sentence. And you're going to use the tables. This was a sentence I generated. The mystery begins at the abandoned building where an interloper has changed. Now, I was able to have a lot of fun with that because I actually, at that moment, switched it up to like a sci-fi thing because it was an abandoned building where an interloper has changed. So immediately I thought about somebody who was like happed upon some sort of experiment that they shouldn't have happed upon, and they were changed because of it. I just immediately thought of the scene in The Fly. And I was like, okay, somebody has like become part of something that they shouldn't be. And then it was like, no, 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 you come here. Like, I want to show you this thing. It's like, no, no, no. Okay, I'm going to leave. It's like, no, 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 come on. We want to show you this thing. And then we're going to like transmogrify you. All right. We have the motivation as well as the obligations of the investigator. These are things that are also going to help to not only, like I said, propel the investigation forward, but also give texture, give layers to our investigator. Why are they doing this work? Why is this work difficult for them? What else do they have that is pulling them away from this work? Why is getting too absorbed in this work dangerous for them? And you're going to need these things. You're going to need to draw upon these things because of the way that the fiction is generated in this game is going to be separated into a series of scenes. And within these scenes, you'll be able to do different things as part of your investigation. So you can infiltrate, locate, acquire, escape when you're done and have the stuff you need. Interestingly, this danger rating is going to be used as sort of a modifier for this, and it will determine at which one of those stages that you start at. So when you start weaving the scene together, you'll decide, like, if you roll high enough, you can like start locating and acquiring the clue. But if you don't roll well, you have to infiltrate, meaning you have to make your way into the place to even begin your investigation. Okay. And I think the way of generating fiction and doing that investigation and working through those stages and having that nice cycle of play, that definitely allows you to do detective work, because you have no other choice than to do detective work, because you earnestly need to work through this cycle. You have no other choice than to do detective work. And I really, really like that, because it made me feel like I had to almost expand my mind, like I had to really apply myself to think, okay, this isn't being handed to me. I have to do some detective work. What do I want to investigate? How do I want to get there? And if anything comes up as a threat or some sort of countervailing factor, then I use my attributes. The example in the book does this really well, where it's like a person needs to get to a clue. I don't know why so many planes are flying overhead, but one second. Famous last words, right? So this person needs to get to, there's a crime scene, they need to get to it, but there's this huge crowd forming around them. And they summon that as a threat from the tables, and then they have to get through it. And so they do an attribute roll, and it comes up that it's like, yes, you're able to get through the crowd, but with a consequence. Their danger goes up, or their fatigue goes up, whatever it might be. And then they're able to reach that thing, acquire, and then the crowd maybe is like, hey, what are you doing here? Now I have to use my attributes to escape. And so it has a very, very natural, very intuitive flow to it in that extent, and I really enjoy that. So yes, you are definitely able to do detective work and overcome obstacles. And I will say, in terms of how solo games go, those first three, this game maybe does as good as I've ever seen a solo game do. I mean, it really, really nails it. You have to inspect before you start a scene. You roll a 1d6, add the danger level to the result, and then you reference the page of like 1 to 3, everything's quiet. You start with the locate stage. 4 to 5, something's in your way. You have to infiltrate, and you have to introduce a threat. You roll on the threat table. What's the threat? If you roll a 6 or higher, something's in your way, and they notice you, right? There's also this really nice slick system in terms of like ranking your threat. A threat at 1 is like their threat exists. Threat at 2, it exists and it's around. Threat at 3, it exists, it's around, and it's coming for you. Okay. So I think that the interplay with all of these different systems and values, it was just, it's extremely impressive. And so that piece of things, I think it exceeds expectations in so many ways. In terms of the last step, finding a real solution, so it's complicated. Let's take a step back for a second and just talk about the problem with mystery games. The problems with mystery games are a problem of like physics, okay? That's always been the problem with a solo mystery game, and it's a common solo problem, but it's basically like In order for there to be a mystery, there must be something unknown. In order for the person to know what is unknown, they must collect information. And then once they have sufficient information and they make a guess at that, they attempt to solve the unknown. There is a person who has known the unknown all along and can tell them whether they succeeded or not. But when you're playing by yourself, you have no idea whether or not you're on the trail, not on the trail, right? And even if you were to generate a mystery in advance, say there was a deck of cards that had all a bunch of mysteries in it, right? And at the beginning of the game, I objectively assign this mystery, right? And I take this card and I go, okay, here's my mystery. I put it in an envelope. And on the other side of that card, it says, the painting, a famous painting was stolen from the Vatican, and it was a cardinal that did it. Cool. So I do the whole game. I collect clues and everything like that. And finally I go, all right, well, here's my guess at what happened. And I flip the card over and it says, a painting was stolen from the Vatican. It was a cardinal that did it. That's great, except here's the problem. What I thought it was that it was actually the butcher who stole the grand piano and then accidentally dropped it on his mother. Because I had no idea what this was. I was working on something completely different. And you're like, oh, well, just like take a look at this then, and then you'll be able to do your investigation and make sure it's about the Vatican. Okay, I've looked at it. Now I know what it says. It's not a mystery anymore. So that is the physics problem, is you cannot both know and not know what this is. All right, and that's always been the issue. And there are some ways to like mollify this. There are some ways to sort of kind of do it. And I think that this game has an interesting and even valiant approach to it that certainly feels more in alignment with what a person would actually want, but it still doesn't quite close that gap, which for some of you is not going to matter, because for some of you, everything I've just said, the investigation, the attribute checks, that's so much better than so many solo mystery games that are available that's like enough, right? But if you are a person that is like very much interested in the satisfaction of figuring out the right thing, you will, I project that you will be half satisfied by this. All right. And because of that, let me just say outright, I do recommend this game. I think this game is fun playing it. I played through it 1.5 times. First time I played through it, and then I had to, because I'm kind of like when I'm game testing, I cannot get through a game without emailing the creator and being like, I don't know, what am I missing? But then when I played through it the second time, I was like, okay, I did play this through to completion, and that was very satisfying. However, the one piece that I think doesn't quite grab is this idea of like, at the beginning of the game, you are going to deal 3 cards. You separate all the face cards out, and you're going to deal 3 of them. Okay? You don't know what those are. You put them aside. And then all of the numbered cards, you're going to draw them, and you're going to generate clues off of them. Okay? And then every time you pull a 2 after this, you're going to add to this pile and strengthen whatever this 2 is. And so then if you get 4 of them, you could turn that, like if you know about activating a card when you're playing like Magic. And then however many cards are in that pile, you could take like the remaining face cards. So say I have 4 cards in this clue pile and I cash it in or whatever. I then go, so I don't know what these are, but I know that it's not these, right? And so I X those out, throw them out. All right. And now I'm a little bit closer to knowing what these are, what these 3 cards are. And I'm also playing against the clock because there are like 3 different conditions that end a game. If I run out of clue cards, I think if I roll a 10 plus on one of the rolls. But essentially, like I am trying to narrow down what these cards are in the time allotted. Okay. And the clues that come up, they are meaningful. Like as I draw a 5 of spades, I have to roll on the D66 clue table to figure out what that is, and I assign that, and then all the other 5s that I strengthen, I can sort of like add more details to that and everything. But the one piece that's missing is that ultimately, say I guess, and I get, even if I get all of these right, these don't represent anything. It's not like I could look it up on a table and then say, the king of clubs means that the car, it's like a Knight Rider car, and the car is sentient, cool. And then also a queen of diamonds. That means that it was the manager of a Dairy Queen that paid off the Knight Rider type guy, right? There's no corresponding truth. It's once again abstracted as a token. This is a card. These are cards that represent the truth. Now, you could work backwards and say, well, I had a bunch of these, and I had a bunch of, 2s, and I had a bunch of 4s, and I remember this one was about clothes, and this one was about lunch meat, and this one was about axes. And so I'll say that it's a butcher shop, an apron, and the clue was, but again, that falls into the issue of most solo mystery games, is that you don't have clues that you work towards a solution. You have a solution that then you retroactively work back and figure out what the clues mean, which is a type of fun, but it's not exactly finding a real solution, right? It's not exactly scratching that itch. Now, this game is not completely unfamiliar, because I'll tell you the game that this one actually reminded me of is Clue, or Cluedo, depending where you live, right? So it's like there is some level of satisfaction in like marking off the different face cards and zeroing in and knowing that you have enough clues in the time allotted, and then, but if, say, I run out of time, the deck runs out, and I don't zero in, I haven't eliminated all the other face cards, and so I have to kind of pick between 5 or 6, and it's only 3 of them. I don't have any basis. Like, there's nothing that makes me say, I don't think it's the queen of clubs, because, the clue had something to do with a carnival, and the queen of clubs has to do with, church, and those aren't, and there's not, you're just guessing. And so in that way, it kind of like becomes a card game again. But this game gets so close to escape velocity. It gets so close to escape velocity. And I could say that I think if I would have changed anything, it's that, well, first of all, I think a little bit more refinement on the solution system I would have preferred, rather than there's like some extra stuff that gets thrown in at the end that like I didn't really need it. Like there's like a multiplayer a thing that explains how to do multiplayers. There's different difficulty levels where you put in red herrings, and it's like I don't need that. And then how to do campaigns, and it's like I don't know. Are we going to play a campaign with this, or even I guess it's not even that. It's like if I wanted to play a campaign, do I really need someone to explain that to me? And I just feel like there could have been something that creates a better link between the clues and the truths, right? Because you have this truth deck that represents what is true in the world. All right, so let's do a couple pluses and minuses in no particular order. I'm not going to do all the pluses and all the minuses, and I'll give a final word on this. Different starting points in terms of using the danger level to determine like where you start your investigation. Awesome. Great idea. Gives a lot of variance to each scene. It's not always me infiltrating first every time. Sometimes I'm able to walk right in. That seems closer to what it would be like in reality, right? If I'm going to question somebody who is watering their plants out front, I don't have to infiltrate their lawn, right? I love the multiple genres. That was like such a special, great addition. I love that there are attributes. It's pretty simple, but just having these attributes and the keywords, I love that. It allows so much more exploration of the world than those mystery games that don't have those, because I when I don't have something I can test against, all I'm doing is just like journaling. And I think really that's what I like so much about this game, is that like it takes a lot of the ideas in journaling games that fall a little flat or fall a little short for me, and it maxes them out and makes them so much more fun and usable. The keyword system is a great example. Like just being able to determine how that keyword could be used really creatively. Um, I wish I didn't have to burn keywords every time I use them, because for instance, like if I had a keyword, there are some that feel like they should. So if I have like a matchstick, right, that's a keyword, and suddenly I need to set off a sprinkler system, and I hit the match and I put it over there and it sets off the sprinkler, that makes sense. I've exhausted that, right? But then there was stuff that was like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like, well, let's just say that it was one was like tight fit, so I can sort of fit into small places, and then I slip under, in a duct system or something like that, and I'm able to climb through it, which gives me an advantage on my roll. Why am I marking that off? Like, if anything, I should have like a little bit more control over how quickly a keyword is depleted, because that kind of took me out of it sometimes. I felt like more than once I was going, why do I lose that? Like, is say I was a good singer and then I sing a really nice song. Am I done singing? Can I know? Can I learn? And I understand it, right? It's because you have to have some way to balance the advantage that you get. Obligations were a really interesting idea. These were things that run parallel to the investigator's life. I actually think that having obligations is something that is another thing that makes a detective game feel like a detective game. Is like they're the best detectives historically were ones that, if only it was just the case, right? Or like as bad as the case is, it doesn't even compare to how bad everything else. Like look at Rust Cole's life from True Detective. It is these, well, in his case, lack of obligations, right? But his partner's obligations, I mean, it's his family and all this, to his reputation. These are what make it a more immersive, realistic, not only stakes, but like these feel like real people. Okay. Um, Couple of drawbacks with this though is like in the obligation scenes, you don't roll anything, you just sort of like imagine it. It's one of the choices that you can make as you advance through the day, and doing it allowed you to pull a clue out of the deck. um and it did say that like not tending to your obligations can make things harder. It didn't really come together for me. um and at times it felt like I wanted to just skip it, and at times it also felt like I had too many obligations. Like I think that it would be fine to have one or two obligate, because if you like look at what these obligations are, um, and we could just use like use the general table. Help a sick partner, that makes sense. Manage alcoholism, okay. Rekindle relationship and pay off debts and overcome trauma and like it just becomes a bit unwieldy for the story, and then it doesn't have the neither the gains nor the losses that make it worth it. So it's one of those things that sometimes happens in games where it's like, well, you should do this to make the story better. And it's like, well, I can do that at first, but after a while, the idea is that I get really embroiled in this story, right? And so I just don't feel like doing things that are just these kind of like, oh, let me imagine that I'm divorced and this is the second weekend in a row that I forgot to pick up Tabitha. And so I think number one, maybe a little bit more difficult or rare, or make it so that it's like one or two obligations, but like they only sometimes do they come up, I guess you might say. unless I'm understanding that wrong, which is entirely possible. And then the other thing being that, like, I think there needs to be some more coherency to obligations, because it just felt like sometimes they didn't run parallel to what was going on in my investigator's life or what the story was really. And I'm being kind of maybe stuck up or entitled here in terms of like what I expect a game to do. But one of the things that is really powerful in a mystery is when the stuff that's happening outside of an investigation mirrors the stuff that's happening within it. That's what actually makes that stuff compelling. It's not just that it's there; it's that there is this like reflective nature between the outside and the inside. And there were like obligations where I just was like, this doesn't feel like it has anything to do with this, or it felt like the same thing as what I was doing. And so it just turned out to, it wasn't really bad. It just didn't feel like as fun as it could have been. Um, and then I liked that the consequences were streamlined. There was a table for consequences. Again, like you were able to roll on it. There was a modifier to it. The higher the number, the worse the consequence. It directed you to give fatigue, to increase danger, etc. As with a lot of games with like yes but mechanics, I just felt like I was getting like I just very rarely got like a yes or a no. And it starts to feel after a while it's where it's like, okay, I do, you know, I do go shopping, but I'm like, can't I just go shopping, please? And of course, as a solo player, you could take control of that. There's nothing that's stopping you from just being like, that's okay. And maybe you shouldn't even be using those systems for that, right? But I do think there's a wide cognitive load when we're playing a game. And so sometimes we're able to really take control and make some of those executive decisions. And there are other times that we're just like trying to hang on. And so we're pulled forward by the mechanics. And when there is too many yes buts in a game, it just tires me out. Where I'm like always having to, nothing is ever just what it is. It makes me kind of feel like maybe an adjustment in that number system or something like that. The clock system was really great. Again, I think having that countdown, having that urgency, having that sense of time passing, making choices more important. Um, I did feel like the doing detective work part was where this really shined. It did feel like I was doing detective work, like really, not just that. I didn't just feel like, whoa, this is realistic. I felt like I'm doing detective work. I'm like actually, looking under rocks and questioning people and doing all these things that I'm supposed to be doing. Um, yeah, I felt like it was innovative. The clue collection system, and there is like a step further it can go. And so I think in terms of like the systems that are out there, I think this is probably the best one that I've seen for solo play. I know that some people really like a gumshoe system and stuff like that. So maybe I'm not thinking of, but like for me, even though it didn't fully, because I don't even really know if what I'm asking for is possible, but this was a system that came really close to it. But I just felt like there was another step that could happen that never happened. And since I'm in the role of like critic here, and as a critic, I don't have to do anything. I just get to talk and I don't have to put forth any effort. It's not, it's great. I don't even have to like say what I would have done differently. But since I'm apparently the best critic ever, I'm just kidding. I would say like, here's my idea. Because I don't want to just say like, oh, this could be better. My idea is the clue system. It's a D66, right? And you're rolling up these clues for every card that you pull, which is cool. The clues are really good clues. They were easy to like organize into sets, and I think again, whoever made the tables was just like the, just a very clean thinker, because all of the suggestions in the tables worked great. The clues maybe, and I don't know, I'd have to sit and figure this out, but maybe instead of the clues being on a D66 table, maybe each suit or each card rank could have a theme. So like any eights that you pull, those are clues that have to do with technology. I'm just kind of throwing this out here. And then any like sevens are clues that have to do with a robbery. And so now it's like, oh, I've got another clue. And then any diamond clue does XYZ. So that at the end of it, I can actually sort of like see how many diamonds I have, how many sevens, how many eights. And in some way, that could at least reflect the theme of the face card. So that if my solution is Queen of Spades, queens mean this and spades mean this. And because of these clues, I was actually able to give somewhat of a shot in guessing what the solution was, because the numbers and the suits correspond to it. So again, this might be something that requires a like masterminding mathematically. So I don't even know if this is possible, but say my clues at the end were like this, and spades, because each of these correlate to this, I'm able to put these together and be like, okay, email, robbery, digital, travel. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is like a long distance, and then, or maybe, I'll leave it to you. But I'm just saying, like, if I were to do it that way, like a long distance wire fraud, wire transfer, where someone stole a bunch of money from a bank. And I'm not saying that the Queen of Spades has to be like money stolen from a bank over wire fraud, but it could be like a crime involving a queen and a spade means that it is a like a money-based crime that involves technology or something like that, so that at least I could feel like I was in the same zone of the solution, so that there was something that felt like a payoff. Because here's the thing. Here's really what it is. I want to feel smart. People want to feel smart when there's like a mystery game. They want to feel, people even do this in mystery movies, right? They want to lean over and go, you know what? I bet you it's so-and-so. You know what? I think that the whole time that's been a dream. And so the clues that are unearthed have to in some way be tethered to the solution. I guess that's the best way I could say it. Like a little bit more of a tether to the actual solution. All right. But yeah, I would say other than that, I think that this game came super close, and it might honestly be like maxed out, because it was really, really well done. And also, I think this is a situation that for me, just seeing as I tried to articulate what I just said there, this might be a thing where it's like it's easy to feel tall standing on the shoulders of giants. I think that this is a move forward in the solo mystery genre. And combined with those damn playing cards, it would be hard for me to. I'm not saying I'm gonna. I might get those playing cards. Anyways, that's what I think. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm losing it. Let me know if you think I'm gaining it. Oh, I made the outro video again. I hope it's not too loud. Turn down your speaker just to make sure. In 3, 2. So nice to see all of you again. I had to slow it down because there's so many. Make sure you message me on Discord. You got to join. We're having a great time. Oh, sorry.